Anachrony.
Whatever.
The Infinity Box version.
Ooh,
Yes,
the big box.
I don't know if you can see it. It's super.
It's gigantic.
It is just as wide almost as it is tall.
It's huge.
So this game is actually has a really good theme. So basically, you are going about to Doomsday, okay? And in the process, you can request resources from your future self that eventually you have to pay back. And if you don't pay back, obviously bad things happen. And obviously when you mess around with the timelines, paradoxes happen and even more bad stuff happens. So this game is about preparing for Doomsday and getting your people off the planet. So that's the synopsis. Let's head into quality of pieces. So we are playing the Unity box, and it has quite a few upgrades from the standard edition on top of all the expansions with that. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So it's all available expansions to the game. It's got all kinds of game trays for all your buildings, all your resources, all your factions that you get to play with. I think even your timeline and your super project is a little bit thicker cardboard quality. It's just about everything is a little bit more upgraded, other than the standard player board.
These are the mechs that you could get with the regular mechs. Though,
but
right?
Yeah, but that's an upgrade.
But it is an upgrade. Yeah,
it's an expansion.
I had to pay
because
extra for
the
mine,
standees for the mechs are just little. They're not even standees. It's a little hex-shaped octagon that you put your worker token on, and that's your mech. Whereas we got these.
Well, yeah, but you could buy an upgrade for the original Anachrony,
right?
Because I do have.
And that's what these are.
But
the original standard is just a flat. I would think it'd be a cardboard standee, but it's not even that.
Yeah, it's
just a flat hex.
Yeah. So this grade has a lot of upgradability that is provided by the manufacturer, and so this pretty much has all the upgrades possible is in that Unity box. So with that being said, guys, I think it's a 10. I think the only thing that we talked about that could be slightly better is that the boards have inlay. But with that same breath, didn't really need them. There's only a little bit of sliding, and it wasn't that big of a deal because there's so few spaces on that board.
Huge table hog.
Yes.
Just so
Very big table hog.
You need a large table or lots of side tables so that you can accommodate all the things that's going on in this game.
Yeah, and don't let these mechs fool you. This is a worker placement game.
Absolutely.
It's not, and there's no battling. You don't do anything with these mechs. These mechs, the only function they really have
into it
is to put a worker in it and assign it to a spot.
Yep.
But they look really cool.
They look really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, as far as...
And every faction has their own unique mechs, which is really neat too.
I mean, as far as quality of components, I'm not a big fan of the board, but apart from the board, I do agree. I think it's probably a 10. Everything else is extremely high quality, but in this edition only.
Right.
I guess my favorite thing is these water. I love the clear water.
I like those cells.
I really like the resources because each resource is not just metal, but it's different shaped on the outside of it.
So it helps with color blindness.
Titanium, uranium,
and Rubik's Cubes.
So
and then they have this really cool power cell thing.
Yeah, the power cell is what I like.
So the flux core.
I've pocketed a few of Rob's. He doesn't know that yet.
You better not
have. All right, how would you rate it?
A 10.
Okay. So moving on to theme, I think the theme is really cool. The fact is you're a spacey type society and you're borrowing from the future and you got to pay yourself back. I think it's really interesting on the debt mechanic. And I think it's pretty cool. What do you guys think?
I do. It's kind of like a dystopian future, and you're just you got your faction and you're trying to keep your faction safe. And how you go about it is a little different for each faction. So thematically, I think it's really cool. I think the mechs add a lot to it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I feel as strongly about it thematically without the mechs.
I think not only that
add a lot.
But with the mechs, with the really cool resources, I really think with the component that really fed into the theme, where if this was just, I remember when
it's just all cardboard.
Yeah, I think when we first played it and it was all kind of basic without all these upgrades, it didn't feel as, I didn't get drawn into the story as much as I did with all these really great pieces. And so I would give this theme a 9.
I agree. I think a 9 is a good score for it.
What do you think, Randy?
Well, I like the theme. It felt, though, a little bit like it was they came up with the idea of this future payback of loans. In essence, that's basically what the entire game's around.
It's
built on a mechanism of future loans.
You get debt and you have to pay it back.
Yeah, so it feels like they built that first and then said, what can we do as far as a theme? And then they're like, well, let's make it a time travel thing.
It's unique.
It is definitely unique. But if you take it back to there's not much difference between that and a normal game where you would get a loan and pay the interest or whatever.
Right. No, I think that, but it's very different. It's not just paying the interest. I mean, you're having to build. You have to build buildings to be able to even go back.
No, I understand.
And then when you go back, you're playing a worker.
And you have the resource. You have to have the resource to pay it back.
I mean, this isn't just a standard interest. It's quite significant.
It just feels to me like they built the game around that mechanism.
I think they did.
And,
but I think,
not that that's a horrible thing. It's just it's a kind of a strange way to design a game.
And that's what makes the game unique is the time travel of your paying.
Well, to be fair, I mean, just look at the name, right?
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, I given how unique it is and the fact that everything about it is beautiful, as far as except for I don't care for the board. I'll give it probably a 9 as well.
Okay. Moving on to rules.
Rules can be a bear because we do you still have them out?
Right under you.
So now, granted, remember we're talking about the Infinity Box version. This is all the rule books in the game. So the main rule book alone is huge.
Yes, it's 40-something pages. It's
right,
crazy.
But really, the main game, if you stop at page 21, that's the main game.
Mm-hmm.
When you go beyond that, it's some of the expansion rules. It doesn't go in as much detail as the actual rule book for the expansions, as well as all the appendixes. So it's got a lot of other stuff that makes it so thick. Yeah. But then you've got expansion rulebook 1, expansion rulebook 2, 3, and 4. But what's really cool is that they actually give you a rule book on how to put it all back for storage.
I thought you were going to say they give you a rule book on how to read the rule books.
Well, that probably wouldn't hurt either. But some of these big box games now that come with all these game tray storage, it's so hard to put it back because you have no idea to do it. This teaches you how to do it.
Yeah. I will say we semi-cheated. We watched a instruction with, who was it?
I can't remember his name, but it's the 18-minute how to play Anachrony. In 18 minutes.
Yeah.
So that didn't help me at all.
It helped me a lot.
The guy did a really good job.
He did a fantastic job. So we cheated a little bit because that's a lot of rules to read.
And we've actually played this before, but it's been so long since we played it the first time. It was almost like learning it anew.
Yeah. I mean, it took me the whole game to grasp it. I was very frustrated because I don't get to read the rules. I can't grasp it. And I was struggling to try to read them as we played the game, and so I felt like I was lost most of the whole game.
And I was fine because it let us jump into play.
Yeah, that's why I came last.
And all we played was just the base game. We didn't play with any expansions, which I really
except for these.
Convince these guys to come back and play.
Yeah, we did play with this expansion.
Yeah, but that was almost a variant rule versus an expansion.
Yeah. So, did you give it a score
for Rulebook? I think I'd give it an 8, only because it is laid out well. It all makes sense. It's just a lot to it. It's going to be very overwhelming. This does not need to be your first game that you play.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, this is probably a medium heavy just because of the concepts in it. It's not that the gameplay is that hard. It's just,
it really isn't, but
it's hard to grasp it.
There's a lot of strategy though too. Like there's a lot of moving pieces in this that make it pretty difficult. And I can't imagine adding more to this. Like I'm sure as we get more familiar with it,
I would definitely not have. I would not have bought this box if you've never played the game before, because it's going to be intimidating to take that box out and have all those rule books, all those pieces. It's going to be intimidating.
And the one negative I do have to say about the box itself is that it wasn't really well organized for punching it out. It took me a long time to put this all together. So even though this helped out a lot, trying to figure out what went with what expansion was not that easy. And it took me about 2 hours just to punch this game out and organize it.
Yeah, so let's move on to gameplay, guys. Gameplay,
it's really not that complex. You only have your capital city actions, which is these 3 main actions up here. And then you have 2 actions above that allow you to go back to do capital actions if those capital actions have already been done by 2 people.
Yeah.
But those capital actions are...
the cheat sheet, the
Yeah.
game face cheat sheet, top notch,
Yeah.
perfect, exactly what you need. It helped us get us going because without that, this would have been painful.
Right.
And
So
then other
top
than
notch
your
on
capital
that.
actions, you got these actions on the side that either let you get water, allow you to basically trade stuff to get other stuff and to mine.
Right.
So but even though there's really not that many actions, every action has a lot of weight.
Right.
To it.
Yeah, but as you build, you also get more actions over here too as you build your city.
But the different actions we didn't just say.
Yeah, we didn't go over each
So
action.
you've got 3 main actions, which is build, gain additional workers,
Recruit.
or to do a technology in essence that gives you abilities to get these major awards down here, which
Super
are
projects.
super projects. Beyond that, you've got mining, which gives you resources, or water or trading, which gives you resources. I mean, water's a resource. Trading
Water's
lets
the
you
most important,
exchange
probably.
resources. But yeah, I mean, so it's basically gaining resources, build, gain workers, or increase a technology, which in essence is a resource. So there's not a lot of choices in it, but the combination of those and how you assign the workers, it's very limiting as far as the number of spaces there are on the board. You've got to work around when you're going to play them there versus your own player board where you have a handful of actions as well that you'll develop from building the buildings. You'll get more actions.
So some of the limitations would be like you have scientists, if it goes to one spot, you might get a bonus, or you can't use a scientist in another spot at all. So it's the type of workers you get is very important because some of those bonuses can make or break a turn.
Right.
And so whether it's reducing resources to make a building, or it might be that one of the key things I think about this game is when you're done with the worker, they go to sleep. But some of the actions allow them to stay awake for the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get those workers back immediately for the next round instead of having to spend a lot of water or potentially losing victory points to wake up workers from previous rounds.
And the exosuits are important because that is the workers you can apply to the main board actions.
Right.
You don't need exosuits for your personal board actions, so you can allocate, okay, I'm going to assign these workers to my personal board. These are the ones that are going to go to the main board and take actions, assuming they don't get blocked by the other players.
And
so what did you think your guys' favorite mechanic of this game is? What did you think made this something special that you really kind of enjoyed?
I think my favorite part of it was my personal board. Just being able to build buildings and being able to try and figure out how I want to play my game and figure out my puzzle compared to you guys. Because really, other than the traditional worker placement type blocking of actions, that's really the only interaction we really had with each other. Other than that, it was me trying to figure out how to do what I need to do the most efficiently way possible.
Yeah.
And it was a good puzzle.
Well, I tell you what was interesting. I think you were so I did not think you had as many victory points as you ended up getting, and it was really a surprise the fact that you almost. I mean, you were very close to me in it, and I was surprised because of the gameplay. But you had built up your board so beautifully. I thought that was a really interesting way. So there's more than one ways to play this game, definitely.
Right.
And I think that's actually a fantastic component to this game. Because there is so much going on, I'd be so concerned that there's only one way to, perfectly balance this. But it doesn't seem like that at all.
I wouldn't call it a point salad though, because
There's
there's not a ton.
Not a lot of point
I mean, there's different ways to score. There's just not a ton of.
Well, no, I mean,
ways.
because you get victory points for science
yeah, for
creations.
buildings.
You get victory points for end of game that you have on your thing. You get victory points for buildings. You get.
But they're all connected,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that if you get a really good engine, you could really blow up the amount of points. But if you don't get that good engine running, you don't score as much as you could.
Right. Well, I think you got to be very careful about what you borrow and things like that. So I think all of it.
It just works really well together.
Yeah, there's a lot going on to this game, and it's something that I know for me during the gameplay, I was thinking, okay, what's my next step? How am I going to play? How am I going to unlock my workers? How can I, basically hoard the resources I have because they're so hard to get. I think the thing that absolutely killed me was the limited number of building spots. Because even when you had the resources, you couldn't build, and getting first player was important. But I do like the fact that they allowed.
In case those options get filled, you do have 2 other spots. You have to pay water, but you could.
Yeah, to use any of the lines that were completely full. So I thought that was a very good thing that they did. If not, I think I would have been very frustrated with this game.
And I think the tension of this game really ramps up in the last 3 turns of the game, because what we didn't talk about is the impact. So the impact forces this board to flip over, and then basically it's the same as the in game. So you get to do your evacuation action, which could score you a bunch of points if you're playing well around it. I got 15 off mine. You got even
14.
more.
No, I only got 14.
Oh, so I got 15 off mine.
I got 5.
And so, but what it really does is you randomly pick these little tiles that go over all your capital actions, and the first person to go there gets this really nice perk. But then it flips over, and that action is no longer available. And that's one of the in-game conditions. If all 6 get that no action, being able to go there, game's over.
When we say no longer available, we mean for the rest of the game it's no longer available. It's gone.
So Randy, what was your favorite mechanic or thing about the game?
I like the exosuit and the planning of these are how many workers I'm going to assign to the board up front, and also I like my character's special ability was basically let me generate the engines you need, because that's the other thing is to power these things.
The power cores. In
the last half of the game, you basically have to have power cores. So I was able to generate those, which was nice. But also I had that card, the special action that gave me the ability to add an exosuit during the game. So I wouldn't have, if I there was an action I really didn't think about that I really needed to have, I could add it back in, which was helpful every round. So I liked how that synergy worked with the exosuits. I liked that a lot. I couldn't wrap my head around a lot of the time travel aspect. That's what I think the biggest challenge of this game is going to be for someone, because you have to plan, okay, well, I'm going to go back in time to pay this in the future, and I have to have the capability to go back there, which I had no problem with that, because that was the main focus of my character, was to have to build those. But it was challenging for me to know when to go and give the loans. The risk of, I was trying to avoid the risk of having those penalty tokens that you get if you get too many of them. And, so I was trying to balance all that when I think I should have been worrying just about going back in time, paying them off as quickly as possible and getting as many points as I could, because I've lost a lot of points capability. So I struggled with that. But I like the exosuits and I like the engine building on my board. I wish I had more capability of building my engine on my board, but that's the things I enjoy about the game.
So, give it a score, guys.
Overall gameplay, I think I'd give it a 9. I really enjoy it. It is overwhelming, especially if you never played this before. Like Randy said, if you get the Infinity Box version, if you're able to get it, just really be careful on what you play with. Make sure you just focus with the base game and then learn and build upon that. But overall, beautiful components. Board's beautiful. Pieces are great. It's a 9.
Ready? What's your score?
I'm not as big on it. It's not a horrible game. I think it's a good game. I think it's finicky, and I'm not sure how they would improve it other than to maybe do. I think the rules needed some more stuff. I think it needed an example on the scoring. I think that was where we struggled a little bit. I think it needed maybe some turn, like this is player A does this, player B does this, to help you kind of cement how this worked. Because it felt like it was finicky, and I didn't really pick up 100% on it until the end of the game. As far as I'll give it probably at this point an 8. After a few more plays, it may go up.
Yeah, I think you really struggled with this game trying to grasp it, and I think it's maybe because you didn't read the rules, where you kind of try to jump in. And this game may not be the thing to jump into. Yeah,
I felt like we started the game, I had to go into the future to get the rules.
Well, I mean...
And what would you score?
I'd give this an 8.5. There's a lot of good things going for this game. It is a lot of measuring out and figuring it out. I'm not sure if this is just my cup of tea, but it is really good and solid. So it's like, I enjoyed playing it. It's just, I don't know if I would pick this out. So I'm not sure I could give it 9, just because I'm not going to be like, oh, let's play Anachrony. But at the same time, this is a good, solid game. So to give it anything less almost seems kind of not fair to this game. So I'm kind of there in the middle between an 8 and a 9.
This is one of the games I definitely want to play a lot more, because I want to figure out all the other puzzles this game is
not offering. To mention we haven't even played with the expansion.
That's what I'm saying.
That's true,
the other puzzles. There might be a lot to this game that just the Doomsday expansion alone really fascinates me, where you're able to affect the game to where you don't even have an impasse.
See,
that sounds cool.
that I will play that. I'll be like,
that
let's
sounds
do
neat.
that.
So I'm looking forward to trying to figure this other stuff out.
So and one thing we didn't talk about is setup time. This is a beast to set up. I mean, if you couldn't tell by all the pieces, and this is just the base game, it is a time-consuming setup.
It took me about 30 to close to 40 minutes to set this all up.
Yeah, so I would strongly encourage you set it up before your people.
Yeah.
Before your gamers arrive.
Play
you might want to borrow from the future to set up the game.
But playing for the game and set it up.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good idea.
And this game is pretty lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is a Saturday night. This is not a Tuesday night game night kind of game.
Right.
This is a...
Well, it depends on your time off schedule. I mean, it could be a Tuesday night, and that's your
Because
day
you're
off.
off on Wednesday.
That's right.
Well, it's not
You
going to
don't
be Tuesday night.
Don't judge people's work schedule.
It is not a workday game, okay?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast tonight. I hope you guys can join us again if you would like to. Don't forget the subscribe button and the notification bell. We'd love to hang out again. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.